Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another light novel review. Today I'm talking about volume number 6 in Satoshi Wagahara's light novel series, The Devil is a Part-Timer. I really wanted to get to this one because volume 7 has already released, so I've fallen behind, which I'm usually pretty good about not doing, but yeah, I totally fell behind on this series. So in volume number 6, we kind of have the fallout from the previous volume. And the main sort of push in this is that Chiho approaches Suzuno and Emi, and she's sort of like, you know what? I need to do something to make sure that I can be safe and more useful because obviously this Ente Isla stuff, I keep getting messed up in it. So I need you girls to teach me to be more powerful and to make use of what I have. And so a lot of this book is about that training and sort of the funny places that that training takes our cast of characters. There's also a couple of different subplots in there. Of course, the McRonalds, where Mao and Chiho works, has opened up a brand new cafe. And so there's this sort of on-running thing about how their manager, Ms. Kisaki, is able to make better coffee than anybody else, which is a little bit of a mystery. And we have Sariel, the angel, brought back into things. There's a lot going on in this book, but I found this volume to be a little bit more satisfying, I would say, than probably the last two volumes. I mean, volume number 4 was let's go to the beach so that our illustrator can draw all the cute girls in bikinis and we can just tell sort of a throw off type of story. And I mean, there were some elements in it that were important. In fact, they continue to sort of have an impact even into this volume. And then the last volume I found was there was a lot of sort of hints and, alluding to different things, but I just kind of felt like there was no real emotional payoff for those revelations, and a lot of sort of things were left dangling and hanging, left, half said. So it was not exactly the most satisfying. Now, this volume is all about kind of the fallout of all of that. We have Emmy, who, of course, has all these revelations she's dealing with and who is trying to figure out exactly where she goes now and what is her mission. We have Suzuno, who has found her faith incredibly shaken by the revelations of the last novel. We have Chiho, of course, who, as I said, I don't really want to spoil stuff that happened before this too much, but, we have Chiho who has found herself in a situation where she feels now that she could maybe do a little bit more, even if it just makes her less of a damsel in distress. And then, of course, we have Mao, who's dealing with his own sort of baggage because of the revelations that are going on. I found that the tone of this volume was maybe a little bit more mature. Like one of the themes that really struck me, and it's funny because it's sort of like a one-off sentence that Mao says, but it really does permeate throughout the whole book. And that is this whole concept of that we get so wrapped up in our day-to-day and, we get so focused on all the stuff going on in our lives that suddenly all these people around us have changed and we haven't even noticed it. We never really noticed when the change happened or even what all the changes are. We just know that this person is different than they used to be. And it kind of struck me that it was this whole idea of like kind of growing up, right? And that's what's really happening with these characters is that their relationships are making them change and evolve. And I think too that up to this point, there's been no real end game in my mind. It's sort of like, a series should have an end goal or sort of an overarching kind of idea of where things are going. I mean, really, up until this point, this series has focused on the idea that the Devil King Satan is trying to discover something that's going to allow him to return to Ente Isla to take things over again, and that Emmy, when that happens, is there to try and kill him. And there really hasn't been an idea of how they're changing relationships, where that's going to go. And even for Mao, I would say that I have wondered, even though I like his character, I have wondered sort of like what he is trying to accomplish. Like, how could this guy be so night and day that one minute you're like this demon overlord king who's causing all this suffering on Ente Isla, and then the next minute you're like actually a fairly decent guy who has some consideration for other people. It never seemed to quite jive. And I would say this volume starts to bring that idea back. It starts to get into this idea of there was actually a reason why they invaded Ente Isla that was above and beyond just this idea of conquest. We are starting to see, I would say that the lessons that Mao is learning, that he talks about, oh, these are going to serve me to take over the world, we're actually seeing what those things are. Like, what is it that he's learning? And then this book ends. The last sentence of this book was just like, I mean, it's funny that I hadn't really thought of it to that point, but it really did grab me, and I thought, wow, like this is really going to other places that could be really exciting. So all in all, I thought volume number 6 was really good. It's admittedly the beginning of it's a bit of a slow burn. I mean, the whole training thing, well, I mean, it's like any training montage in a movie, right? You're like, okay, I get it. It's got to be there, but, you know, whoop-de-doo. We've seen this a million times before. It kind of felt a little bit like that. And it wasn't until I was probably about a third of the way into the book that it really kind of started building up and grabbing me. And the characters were interacting more in ways that I found really fun and engaging, like I usually do in this series. So, volume number 6, good volume overall. Definitely moving the series into, I think, a good place, although I have seen some of you commenting that you don't think the relationships change as organically as they should given what happens, but, you know, I haven't read ahead, so I only know what happens in this volume. So, good setup for, I would say, the series going forward. Some interesting ideas, a little bit more mature ideas and notions about people and how people can change. And I mean, after all, that seems to be kind of the whole idea of this series, right? Is to take these two people that were in such opposing and seemingly black and white positions and now moving them closer into all sorts of different shades of gray and black and white and all over the place where they don't really recognize who they are anymore. And it's kind of cool to see some emotional payoff in the book as well for that changing position. So those are my thoughts on volume number 6 of The Devil is a Part-Timer. In the name of continuing to try and catch up with stuff that I've fallen behind on, my next volume is going to be volume number 5 of Shirin Kanzaki's Black Bullet. Just like The Devil is a Part-Timer, volume 6 has now come out of this one, and I haven't even read book 5 yet. And it would be kind of interesting because book 5 is where this now picks up beyond the anime. So I really have absolutely zero idea of what's going to happen. And really, we don't have much left. Like, there's only 7 volumes currently released. Supposedly, volume 8 is in the works in Japan, but it has yet to be released. So only got a couple more volumes that are available of this series. So I'm going to try and get caught up, and that will be my next review. If you're new here and you love light novel reviews, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I upload a new light novel review once a week, sometimes more, depending on how fast I get through a book. I've got a link to all of my old reviews as well if you want to check those out. Thanks so much for joining me in this video, everybody. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, bye-bye for now.